unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
What is up, everyone? This is Hater Radio. My name is Chris McLean. I am Sans co-host. Ian is off at a Christmas party with his lovely wife, and so I'm here to do the show alone, but we'll make the most of it. So this is the college football playoff edition of Hater Radio, and this is the first round games that we're going to look at. Obviously we talked about, the team's not getting in. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. The ones got in. And also last week, Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman. So we didn't do a show on Sunday because there wasn't really much else to talk about. But we wanted to at least talk about and break down these games here. So I went ahead with my preview of these games. I looked at 2 games with these opponents. So there's 8 teams in here, and I looked at like roughly 2 games per each participant in each game. So I looked at like 16 games, but there were a couple of rematches. So I looked at those specifically. So it was like, I think around like 13 games that I ended up looking at with the Ole Miss Tulane game being a rematch, Oklahoma Alabama being a rematch, and I think that was it. So it's just those 2. So technically it was 14. So I looked at 14 games, and looking at all these games, specifically with Alabama, Oklahoma, I was a huge fan of Alabama all year. I felt like they played really well throughout the rest of the season after that Florida State loss. So they responded really well, but they struggled in these last couple of games. They lost to Oklahoma, and then they lost to Georgia in the SEC championship game. So, this team is looking to rebound, and I think they can. I like their offense a ton. I liked what they did in that Georgia game. I rewatched it again. I felt like they were the better team in that game. And they definitely did not show up in that SEC championship game for sure, that it was, not the same team that was there in September that beat Georgia in Athens. But, as far as Oklahoma, I love the defense. Like, their defense is top tier. Like, I would say out of the teams in the playoff, I'd probably have like Texas A&M and Miami at like, maybe the best defenses, but I think Oklahoma's like right there. And I don't know. I mean, like maybe even like Oklahoma's just a little slight more because their D-line gets such good pressure with just 4. Miami does as well. So, I like Oklahoma's defense in this game a ton. I feel like Oklahoma is going to be able to, put pressure on the quarterback, make Simpson, struggle. In the game earlier in the year, Oklahoma was able to put some drives together with some short fields. They also are an opportunistic defense, so they're able to cause turnovers. And you have someone like Satania on punt returns who was able to get a huge punt return to start the game, and it led to a short field and a field goal. Also, with this Alabama defense, I think they're good enough that they can keep Mateer in check, which that'll be crucial because Mateer, is still recovering from that injury earlier in the year. He had surgery. I think he's gotten better as he's gotten away from that surgery, but he still is not where he was before the injury at the beginning of the year. Like, he looked great against Michigan. looked good against Auburn, and then he like got that injury and was really struggling against Texas, where they lost, and they were able to do the most of it just because of that defense. Really, most of those games they were in the games that they were playing because of the defense, beating Tennessee, for instance. But no, I feel like this Alabama team, I think they're going to come to play. But, like I said, the last couple of weeks, the Auburn game, the Georgia game, they struggled. The game is in Norman. Crowd should be loud. It's Friday night. It's the only game on. The whole nation is going to be watching. I feel like, Oklahoma is going to be able to win this game. So I'm going to say like a close one. It's going to be eerily similar score to what it was earlier in the year. I'm going to say like a 23-21 game, maybe even 23-20 game. And maybe like Oklahoma gets a late field goal to go up, and then Alabama has the ball late, but Oklahoma can make the stop to get the win. So I got Oklahoma in the first game. So that's what we got there. I'm going to move on to Miami, Texas A&M. I rewatched the games for Miami and Texas A&M. I watched Miami's win against Pitt, and then Miami's loss against SMU, and then I watched Texas A&M's loss to Texas and their comeback win against South Carolina. Some of the things that I noticed, Reed was very erratic in both of those games, caused a lot of turnovers that really put them behind the 8 ball, and especially in that Texas game late, Reed threw a couple of picks, really kind of iced that game. Their defense was good enough in that Texas game to give them a shot. They kept the game close, but Reed could not do enough, really, essentially, to really put them over the top. I feel like Reed is elusive enough against Miami's defensive line to alleviate some of the pressure. I've not been the biggest fan of Reed overall, but I was impressed by his comeback against South Carolina. Even though South Carolina is not very good, I felt like the fact that they were down 30-3 and they were able to come back by 28 points was a huge plus. I feel like they can make big plays. Concepcion is huge in the punt return game, and he does also take handoffs and short screens, and he can make some deep downfield plays. The other guy for them that made some plays, Bethel Roman, he's a deep threat as well. So Texas A&M has got plenty of skill position players. The run game is efficient enough to keep the defense honest, but I still feel like Miami's probably going to shut down the run game. If anything, Texas A&M is going to probably have to throw the ball a ton. So in that case, I kind of like Miami in that case, because I feel like Miami can pin their ears back and get after him. But then again, in the SMU game, Jennings went off, and he's an elusive quarterback as well, and he was able to alleviate the pressure and get away, unlike Heinzel in the Pitt game. So I think Miami, though, conversely, on defense or on offense, Malachi Toney, their number one option. Fletcher and Pringle, pretty solid backfield. They'll be able to eat up some yards. Beck, again, like I've said all year, he's really the engine oil for this engine. If he is not confident and he's inaccurate, like he was in the Louisville game and some other games where he just throws interceptions, it's going to be a problem, because this defense gets after the quarterback. And I feel like Beck, because he's not as elusive of a runner, he might be in for a long day. So expect, God, I can't remember the DN for Texas A&M. He's got the short arms. I think it starts with an S. But he's had a phenomenal year, and expect him to be in the backfield like nonstop all game long. And USF finally went away from Hewitt. Good. God, that Moore guy sucked. I'm watching the USF game live, the bowl game. But expect Carson Beck to struggle in this game. I don't expect him to have a great game. It's going to be loud. I think this is probably the loudest environment they'll be in all year, because Pittsburgh is a very quiet environment. Maybe Va Tech was about the loudest environment they've been in all year, but this is way different. Like, they have not experienced this all year, especially as a road team. So, I expect it is an early game though. So it's 11 a.m. Central kick time. So it may be a sleepier crowd, but it is a playoff game. So what I would expect the fans to be up for it. I do expect Tony to have a good game. The thing I noticed with Miami, what they've done very well at is utilizing their tight ends, especially in the red zone, to great effect. So if Texas A&M is able to isolate those guys and to take them out, they'll have a better chance of turning those drives from touchdowns into field goals. For Texas A&M defensively, again, pressuring the quarterback, Elko is a great defensive mind. I feel like he's going to have a good plan. I feel like he's going to be able to, pressure Beck a lot. Expect, all kinds of gadget plays from Tony. They love giving the ball to him on all kinds of end arounds, screens. He throws the ball. He throws the ball really well for a wide receiver. And he, honestly, I feel like this game, I feel like Miami could win this game because of their defense. But again, if Marcel Reed is hitting the explosive plays with Concepcion and Bethel Roman, it seems like, Miami might be in for a long day because I think Texas A&M's defense is going to be able to make some stops. I think that South Carolina game, the more I looked at it, it seemed kind of fluky. There was like a sack fumble for a touchdown, scoop and score. And there were some other things in there that lend itself to not necessarily a normal output by a game between South Carolina and Texas A&M. So I feel like that result is a little wonky. I mean, Texas A&M did win that game, but I still feel like South Carolina was probably lucky to be in that game, even though they were up 31-3 at halftime, or 30-3 at halftime. But okay, so I feel like Texas A&M is going to win this game, and so I'm going to say Texas A&M wins, let's say probably, I don't know, low 20s game. No, I'll say a high 20s, 28-20 game, and maybe maybe Miami has the ball last, trying to score, and Beck throws an interception. I mean, that honestly seems likely, because I feel like Beck is what will make this team go. If he's not having a good game, if he's getting pressured and he's throwing picks, this is going to be a long day for Miami, which I think it honestly might be. I'm not the biggest fan of Beck. He has done well when he has time, but I don't think he's going to have time on this game. Okay, moving on. Third game, Tulane, Ole Miss, a rematch earlier in the year where Ole Miss dominated Tulane. In the highlight package I watched between these guys. And I watched it earlier in the year, and I remembered it as well, but I rewatched it. It is like nothing but Ole Miss highlights. There is like, the whole first half. I think Retzlaff didn't have a completion until the second half, so it was very bad. Even they put in the backup at near the fourth quarter for Tulane because it was so bad. Chambliss had a really good game, but they were held to a lot of field goals that kind of really, changed the complexity of that game, because if Ole Miss is able to score touchdowns, I think it was at least 3 or 4 field goals. If they convert 2 more, it was going to be like a 45 to 50 to 10 game. So I don't know what to make of this game. I like Tulane a lot. I watched them play the North Texas game, and then I rewatched it again, for this prep, and I feel like Tulane looked really good in that game, and North Texas has one of the best offenses in the country. They forced Mestamaker into a ton of mistakes. In the Ole Miss game, there were a couple instances where, of course, he dropped it. What is it in the Ole Miss game where they had, oh Lord, USF drops the ball. Why was he advancing? He can't advance it. But anyways, no, Ole Miss had a tip ball that went for a huge gain where the defender was in the right spot and clearly should have got the interception for Tulane. That could have changed the game a little bit. There were some other things. I think Tulane defensively did well enough, but the offense was non-existent. I'm talking I think it was maybe 30 yards in that first half, something ridiculous, which I don't think Tulane is that bad of a offense. I don't think they're going to replicate that. I think, especially in this game, they're probably going to take some chances knowing that they're going to have to. I mean, you look at Boise State versus Oklahoma 20 years ago, and they took chances. You just have to take chances to win these games. And, I feel like I don't think that's going to matter, though. I still feel like Ole Miss is the better team. You can say, though, with the fact that Lane Kiffin is no longer there is some disarray. Pete Golding, the defensive coordinator, is now the head coach for Ole Miss. So maybe that'll change things. I don't know, maybe flow of game type stuff. I've never been the biggest fan of Pete Golding. I think his defenses have been average. I felt like when he was the coordinator at Alabama, it seemed like their defense kind of held that team back from being even better than it could have been in 2020. No, with watching this, with Tulane, Retzlaff, he's going to have to run the ball a ton, and, that'll help keep the defense honest. And I think, if they follow the same game plan, Ole Miss, as they had the last game, a lot of it was Retzlaff's erratic, accuracy. He was very inaccurate that first game. And that's a huge problem. They're not going to be able to, I don't know. It's just it's something that with Ole Miss, they're going to be able to score points. I think Chambliss, you've got Charlie Weiss Jr. still there with the OC running the show, and most of the offensive staff there. So Ole Miss should be fine. Lacey's a stud running back. You've got Stribling. You've got Alexander, who makes plays all day. Wallace. I mean, there's just playmakers all over the field. Even Wright, the tight end, they're going to be able to push the ball downfield on Tulane, which they did. Tulane struggled on those explosive plays. Chambliss even ran for a couple big explosive plays. So expect, I don't know. It's a big difference here between G5 and the SEC. Now, I will say when we talk about the James Madison game, I will give more credit to James Madison. I think James Madison is a better quality team. They're not as good as a defensive team, still solid, but like I feel like Tulane is not as good offensively, and that's going to be their downfall in this game because I feel like Pete Golding has already been able to shut them out pretty much outside of 3 points for the first team offense, and then that late touchdown to give it the 10 points for Tulane. But Ole Miss. The other thing I was going to say in that Georgia game, they were doing quite well and they had a decent lead, and then they just kind of fell apart. They couldn't stop Georgia at all. Georgia was making plays. They were able to, win that game by 8 at the end. And, Georgia's defense in that game struggled to get any kind of stops. And then all of a sudden, Chambliss just could not make any conversions, and they couldn't get down the field to tie it late. So with that, I'm going to say Ole Miss wins this one, though. Like, just the totality of looking at it, like with the Tulane Ole Miss game, looking at the Tulane North Texas game, and then the Ole Miss Georgia game. With those games, I feel like Ole Miss just stands out to me. I feel like they're, one, going to score a lot of points, and I don't think Tulane can keep up. I think their offense struggled mightily against Ole Miss in the first matchup, and I think that's going to be more of the same here as well. So I'm going to say Ole Miss wins like 35 to like 14. And then Florida finally gets their coach because Tulane will be eliminated. Okay, last one we've got for the show is James Madison and Oregon. For the games I watched for this matchup, I watched the Washington State and James Madison game, the James Madison Louisville game, the USC Oregon game, and the Oregon Indiana game. So with James Madison in that Wazoo game, they were able to get quite a few explosive plays to really keep pace with Wazoo. And then Wislowski for James Madison had a really nice touchdown in that game. Knight, the running back for James Madison, really solid running back, had the dagger at the end of the game, the TD for 60 yards. They got a 4th down stop. They can get after the quarterback. There's a couple guys on the line that've got some size. There's one guy, Zero. I don't know if he played in that Washington State game, but he played in the Louisville game. Big guy, real big guy. There's a couple guys with size on their D-line, so they can get after the quarterback a little bit, which is kind of important against Oregon. Dante struggles with pressure. He threw a couple picks in that Indiana game, and I think he threw at least. Yeah, he had a fumble in the USC game, and I think he had at least an interception as well. Oregon gives up big plays. They gave up big plays against USC, a lot of downfield throws. So they're definitely susceptible to that. And JMU is capable of that. DeGeneiro is a nice wide receiver as well. James Madison, I think has a better chance of doing well in this game than Tulane against Ole Miss. So I still feel like it's going to be freezing cold, and not that James Madison doesn't know freezing cold because they're in Virginia as well, because it gets cold there too. But it's going to be a loud, environment. Oregon, it's a very raucous crowd. It's the first ever playoff game in Eugene in Outson Stadium. I like Dante Moore a ton. I feel like Dante Moore is probably a huge advantage here for Oregon. Oh, damn it. Oh, Koger. Almost. But I feel like James Madison is going to stay in the game. I feel like they're going to score just enough, probably around like 20 points a game, or 20 points in this game. And Oregon's probably going to score around 30. So I'm going to say like a 30-20 game. I think it's going to be close till the very end. I think maybe with like a couple minutes left, Oregon scores a late TD to put them up 10, and then James Madison gets the ball late but can't do anything with it. So so I've got Oklahoma winning. I've got Texas A&M winning. Ole Miss. I know it's all four favorites. I think the most likely to upset a road winner would probably be Miami. Out of all four of those teams, I think Miami's got the best shot. But again, my thinking on the Miami game is Carson Beck. If he's going to struggle, then it's going to be a problem for them. So, like, you need a good game out of Beck, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I think there's going to be too much pressure from Texas A&M, and there's going to be a lot of big plays, explosive-wise, from Texas A&M on offense. Okay, so that is the games. Enjoy these. I love the playoffs. I know this is only really the second year, so people are still trying to feel like if they truly like this new expanded playoff. I've been a huge fan of this. I know we're just getting this second year of it, but home playoff games are a huge treat that we never got to have before, and we're continuing to have it, and hopefully we get to have it going forward in the quarterfinals as well, which would be huge because I don't know. I saw somewhere someone talking about it. It's like, why are we rewarding LA City or LA NFL cities with these playoff games when we should be having these playoff games in these smaller towns? Reward them with a big, that's pass interference. He hit him before you've got to be kidding me. He literally like contacted him before the ball. Whatever. This is the end of the USF game. So how is that not pass interference? What is this ref looking at? But no, that I feel like these home playoff games would be great boons for these local economies, that they should provide that to them instead of NFL towns that have nothing to do with college. And that's just my feeling. But anyways, that's the show. We'll talk to you on Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And enjoy these games. Take care, y'all.